Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. This time I wanted to focus on the first three appearances of two of my favorite characters in comics, the Crypt Keeper and the Vault Keeper. Now the reason why I wanted to focus on the first three appearances of these characters is because the funny relationships that the books have in my collection. And I'll talk to you about that in a moment. Let me just get this book out of here. I thought I needed to hold up some comics, but I don't. All right. So as I talk, you'll see what I mean. So anyway, let's start out with the third appearance. We'll go backwards. We'll go to 3, 2, 1. All right. So let's start out with the third appearance of these characters, which also happens to be the very first issue of their magazines. So here we have, let's put this over here, we have the Crypt of Terror, number 17, although some people consider Tales from the Crypt 20 as the number 1 issue, and there's some truth in that. And Vault of Horror 12, which is the really number 1. Okay, so this is the third appearance of the Crypt Keeper, and this is the third appearance of the Vault Keeper. Fine, whatever. And the first issue of their magazines. This used to be Crime Patrol. This used to be War Against Crime. So they're moved away from crime to horror or terror. Same thing. They were, there was really no difference between the two. These weren't more terror based and these were more horror based. It's horror all around, even with the Haunt of Fear. So anyway, you have the third appearances here. Okay, and the titles turn to horror titles. Now, one of the odd relationships that I've noticed that for me personally, not necessarily in comics per se, but just in my collection is, where these books came from, how I was able to acquire them, because some of them are not easy to get, right? They're very difficult to find. Sure, they pop up on eBay. I'm sure if you go to eBay right now, you'll see maybe a couple copies of these, in various grades. For those of you, I would say the majority of you out there who are not EC fans or pre-code fans, I guarantee you probably don't want to pay the price that they're selling for. So therefore, it doesn't matter to you. But my point is, they're not that easy to find. So it's just not that appealing to a lot of people. But anyway, my relationship with these books, obviously I'm in the minority. I like to get these books, but the relationship that these books have for me, other than my interest and all that stuff, is it's interesting for me, because whenever I look at my Crypt of Terror 17 and my Vault of Horror 12, these two have a relationship with one another, and as funny as that sounds, I had purchased this well over a year ago. Okay. Now the dealer that sold me that book said, "Hey, I also have a Vault of Horror 12. It's the other first issue." I was like, "Yeah, I wasn't ready to commit to that book yet." Okay. I was like, "Yeah, I'm just happy with my Crypt of Terror. That's the one that I really, really wanted, and one that has a little bit more meaning for me." So I stuck with that. Flash forward to a year later, right? The guy that had the Vault of Horror 12 still had the Vault of Horror 12. And regular comic book collector is not going to spend X amount of dollars on these horror books, because there's no speculation behind them. They're each separate from one another. It's not a continuing story arc or anything like that, because I think a lot of people are really interested in what these books will be worth down the line for most of us. Sometimes people don't talk about that, but I do think that is the case for a lot of people. Not everybody. So, because of that reason, that book did not sell. And it just so happened that he went and got it graded, and I was finally able to pull the trigger on it. So the relationship that these two have, I always think about it when I look at them, they came from the same guy, and they were a year apart. And I just think it was pretty cool that, this book did not sell within that year, and I was still, even though I said no to it a year earlier, that I was able to get it. It was going to be waiting for me another year when I was finally able and more dedicated to getting it. So that, to me, when I look at this, other than all the other things I mentioned about these two books, that it's the first horror title here, first horror title here, all that stuff, all the relationships that it has, that these two particular copies have that certain relationship when it comes to my collecting. Let's look at the next two. Again, we have Crime Patrol 16 and War Against Crime 11. I said in my comic book haul number 32, this by far, out of all the books that I'm going to show in this particular video, the first 3 appearances of the Crypt Keeper, the first 3 appearances of the Vault Keeper, this is my favorite cover. I love it. I love it a lot. This cover here is not bad. And the other 2 covers, Crypt of Terror 17 and Vault of Horror 12, those are really cool too. I would say that my second favorite cover is Crypt of Terror 17. But this is a better cover than Crime Patrol 15. This is a way better cover than War Against Crime 11. The respected first appearances of the other those two characters, Crypt Keeper and Vault Keeper. But anyway, let's talk about relationships again. Okay, we know the relationships, second appearances of these characters, all that stuff in comic book history. That's the relationship and all that stuff. This is the first horror cover for EC and so forth. All right. But the relationship, again, like the last 2 books, it's just funny how these 3, this is why I'm focusing on these 3 appearances for these characters, how the books are, when it comes to collecting the books, how they have these certain relationships. And the relationship for these 2 is, again, they came from the same dealer. And I didn't get either of these on eBay. I got them for a specific dealer that deals in a lot of these hard to find pre-code books. You go on eBay, and I remember seeing this on eBay, a 3.5 copy, and mine is better than a 3.5. A 3.5 copy, I think, recently sold for $750. Now, who is going to spend? What regular? Like I said, I go back to my other statement. What regular comic book collector is going to spend that kind of money on War Against Crime 11? They're probably not. Maybe they will, who knows? But most of the time they're not. They're probably going to be looking for some major superhero keys, and that's understandable. But the relationship, again, is that, yes, I was able to upgrade this book, and the guy just happened to have a War Against Crime 11. So once again, they both came from the same place, and I just find that just so unique that every book that I'm going to show in this particular video has that sort of relationship, that they came from the same dealers and so forth. And I just like the stories behind it. It's something not only more as memorable as what happens in the books. Well, this is the second appearance, this is the first appearance, and all that other stuff. Just where you get these books, who had them. I'll always sit back and remember, yeah, they came from the same guy, and this came from the same guy, and here's a story behind it, and all that stuff. It just adds to the flavor of collecting for me. And, to titles like this, which I'm very into, it only makes it even more delicious. So let's go to the last 2, which are the first appearances of the Crypt Keeper and the Vault Keeper. Not easy books to get. Not easy books to find, and certainly not easy books to pay for. Although I did hear that EC, someone is going to be making a film or TV series on them. I don't know. So, who knows? Okay. These are the first appearances of these characters, and they are, my least favorite covers, honestly. This is my least favorite cover out of the 6. Okay? I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. It's drawn horribly. No, I like the color scheme. I do. I like the yellow and the black. I love that. And I like the color scheme here too. I believe this is dark brown. I'm colorblind, so it's sometimes hard for me to see. I don't think it's black though. But the dark brown, we'll call it, and the white, and this scene here, a guy coming in through the French doors and all that, that's really cool. But I felt that this one was better, and largely because of the creepy hand that's reaching out. That's what put it over the top for me. But anyway, again, as you can figure out, these 2 came from the same person. Story about the Crime Patrol 15. As maybe some of you know, I was going crazy looking for the Crime Patrol. Now, I didn't get any of these books from well-known sellers. Okay, I didn't go to the local big-time sellers in New Jersey or in New York or Like, guys like Bob Storms or Dale Roberts or what the hell's that guy's name? Uh, Snova, whatever. Gator, that Gator guy, whatever, down south. I didn't go to any of these guys, which is probably the reason why I got all these books in this video way cheaper than what they go for, especially this bad boy. When it comes to this book, this originally was on eBay, and it was an auction. And I reached out to the guy, and I just figured I had nothing to lose. I said, "Listen, man, what is it you want for that book?" Now, Mike, Patrick's friend, said on the live chat, I think he said on the live chat that, listen, if you're really ready, you're really looking to get a book, make sure you have the money behind it. I mean, yeah, sometimes people may not have the money ready and they're trying to look for this deal. Okay? Oh, I need a deal on this. Look, man, even ETA Nick said this, and it makes perfect sense. If this is a hot book, and make no mistake, this is a hot book. Make no mistake. People are not going to give you a deal on Crime Patrol 15, nor will they give you a deal on Amazing Fantasy 15. Some might, but it's not often. If you're looking to get a book, make sure you have enough capital behind it so you can get it. If that's what you really want, if you really feel this is the right way to go, make sure you have the money. Don't go into it where you don't have the money and you're hoping to get 40% off the book. Because, man, there's going to be other people that are going to take it from you. And if you're anything like me, you start feeling badly and like, oh man, I shouldn't have been so cheap and all that stuff. But you should be prepared. So I was prepared for this, said the guy. So anyway, I sent him that email. He said, look, a lot of people have reached out to me with the same question. And I could tell this guy was an old-time collector deal. He wasn't like one of those big dealers and all that stuff. I could tell by the conversations I had with him during that time and afterwards. And he said, look, some guy offered me this much. If you can beat that, I might do it. And I said, okay. I came back, and the price was low. The guy, getting back to what I just said, someone wanted probably a massive deal on this book and offered X amount of dollars. And I was like, I could beat that. And I sent back an offer, which was higher. And he's emailed me back and said, look, I'll take this much, which was like $200 more than what I offered. And I said, sold. And he said, okay. He ended the auction and he sold it to me. And I later had it pressed. I mean, I thought it was a 3.0 raw. I showed the video where I went through the book and all that stuff. And then I had it pressed and clean. My local comic book shop guy, Mike, he, on my behalf, he says, all right, let's get this thing pressed and great. You could use my account. I was like, okay, great. And it came back a 4.5. So what I paid for this, the book is easily, by recent sales, more than double. More than double what I paid for it. So, I mean, the point, I guess, is that, sometimes you never know. Sometimes you should reach out to people, but don't go into it feeling that you deserve a deal on these big, big books, because, sometimes that pisses people off. It's just always good, if this is a book that you really, really want, like I did, have enough capital, know what it goes for, and have enough for it. I mean, if you get it for that price, or if you get it for a little less, great, good for you. But if there's something that you really, really want, sometimes, and ETA Nick, like I said, makes this point, sometimes you have to pay a little bit more. And sometimes when you pay a little bit more, that guy who may be selling other books might be willing to give you a little bit something off the next book. And that's where it comes down to this. The guy reached out to me, said, hey, sort of like with the Vault of Horror 12 and the Crypt of Terror 17, that guy, hey, I have War Against Crime 10, Vault of Horror 12, and some of the other big ones. And I said, really? He said, yeah, I was thinking about listing them. And I said, I really want that War Against Crime 10, because again, it's another book that's important to me, and it's another book that you usually don't see. I said, hey, what do you want for this? What do you want for War Against Crime 10? He said, I want this. And I said, okay. And I said, okay. I thought it was a pretty good price. I think he took a little bit off for me. I could tell because, I just purchased this. Um, and I said, sure. I wasn't going to rock the boat. And within a week, I got this, uh, like on a Tuesday. I got this the following Tuesday. Within a week, I had both of them. And it was great. And that's, again, the whole purpose of this video is the stories that sometimes are behind these books. Not necessarily what they are when it comes to comic book history, but the relationships that some of these books have. Like I talked about in my comic book history video, that I got a whole batch of books from Gilbert. And, X Factor 5, 6, X-Men, Uncanny X-Men 221. They're all obviously first appearances in X-Men books, a lot of them. But they have a relationship of being part of the first batch of books that I got from a specific place, from a specific guy that helped me get them. And it's the same story with these, just more modern. And I every time I look at these two books, I know they came from the same home, the same owner. And I think about how I was able to acquire them, which I thought was for a pretty good price. And I think of the same with the other books I showed in this video. So it only adds to how special these books are to me, because they've already been very special to me, as you know. I love the Tales from the Crypt, I love EC, and these are very important books when it comes to those two titles. So just wanted to share those stories with you. I love telling stories about these books and so forth. But keep in mind what I said. If there's a book out there that you really want, if you really want that Iron Man 55 and you want a 5.0, you think that's in your price range, $500-$600, whatever it's going for right now. It might go for less pretty soon after the movie. Who knows? Make sure you have at least that. Does that mean you have to spend that? No. But if you really want it, sometimes you have to overpay for a book or pay exactly what it is. Don't always go into things expecting a deal. Sometimes, if you're willing to buy quite a few books, you might get a deal and so forth. But just keep that in mind. When there's stuff that you really, really want, sometimes you have to pay a little bit more. And it adds to the story on how you got it. For like with these books were for me. Thank you for watching.